This is WBEN TV Channel 4, Buffalo, New York. And in this time and a half, new news with Peter J. Wiggins, Thursday, April 1st, 1971. Here now, Peter Wiggins. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Peter Wiggins, and here's what's happening. Albany, New York. The state entered the new fiscal year today without a budget plan to cover the spending after the legislature's Republican leaders failed to win enough votes among GOP lawmakers to ensure passage of a $7.6 billion budget. The leaders would optimistic, however, that the problem could be resolved in time to bring the budget to the floor of the Senate and Assembly for debate and approved of today's sessions. The Senate met only briefly early this morning and recessed its regional sessions until later. The Assembly's Republican majority postponed a party conference which was scheduled previously to get the regular session scheduled underway at 11 a.m. Both Niagara County Assemblyman V. Summer Carroll and Richard J. Hogan opposed the proposed budget as it now stands. The budget proposed never reached the floor of either House Wednesday, although leaders struggled into the late evening to line up GOP votes. Their appeals basically were aimed at hardcore of lawmakers from Central New York who were elected to vote for any taxes without further economies. Later in the evening, the Assembly Republicans conferred on budget cuts until after midnight. The affair was especially embarrassing for Assembly Speaker Perry B. Durea, who was fashioned a campaign issue last fall out of the fact that the Democrats failed to pass a budget in 1965. Before the new fiscal year, when they controlled the legislature, it was an irresponsibility that could be expected of Democrats had been maintained. He did not mention these statements Wednesday, but the Democratic Assembly Minority Leader Stanley Stanget there were made no statements from the side of the aisle on the Republicans' ability to cover the collapse of the funded GOP organization, he said in a statement. But the state has no fiscal plan for the year. The tax structure will remain the same as sales tax will continue to be collected. For example, the lack of the fiscal plan means that the state has no authority to pay bills. Well, Cabell's fiscal aides said that the state can postpone payment bills for 2 or 3 days without a budget. Beyond that, they said that emergency measures would be to take by the legislature, such as continuing the budget from the expired fiscal year, making engagements to pay public employees with scripted said the cash. The next state payday is April 7th. The story began last February 1st when Rockefeller submitted an $8.45 billion budget plan that would be bounced by $1.1 billion in increased taxes after public criticism. Rockefeller and the legislature's GOP leaders trimmed the budget plan by $13 million in companies and came up with a $48 million tax package. Washington. Vice President Svarty Agnew accused the China war critics today of demoralizing American soldiers in the front lines and scolding those who return home. Agnew, speaking before the 25th anniversary meeting of a Veterans Administration and Volunteer Services, said American soldiers are no longer have another war, have to fight the lonely fight of the Vietnam veterans. They have been told almost daily that they had rather listen to news from and hoping they were fighting in a worthless and immoral cause and that we ought to abandon the stuff Vietnamese to their enemy. He said this encouragement has come to them from
How about that for a nice change of pace?
Not from Hanoi, Hana, but some of the leading members of the United States Senate, prestigious columnists and news commentators, academic figures, and some church organizations as well as the sort of radicals, draft card veterans, and street demonstrators. Agnew said that a great majority of the Americans do not share the Massachusetts within view of the are being exploited in Southeast Asia. The vice president said veterans sometimes find hostility to wars transferred to them when they return home. Incredibly, they may even find themselves stereotyped and falsely stereotyped, let me emphasize, as drug addicts and cold-blooded criminals because of negative propaganda committed by the critics of the war, he said. Finally, the veterans face an additional burden of an anti-military attitude that is being encouraged every day in this country. Agnew told the volunteers that their work and their service to hospitalized veterans ensured that no such feeling exists in their hearts. It is incumbent upon all of us, he said, to go our way to assure our Vietnam veterans that we do welcome them home and do appreciate their service to this country. Even those who may be disagreed with the United States policy in Southeast Asia owe that much to young men who have answered their call to the service. Paris. Mohammed Riyad, Egyptian foreign minister, said today Israel responded negatively to a UN mediator's note if it would mean the end of the United Nations and Security Council should be turned into a kind of a cafe and a bar. Riyad spoke to newsmen on leaving the illicit place where he held an hour-long talk with President George Pompidou. He carried a note from President Anwar Sadat on Egypt. We appreciate the stand of the French government because they are standing on the side of the justice and they are doing their best to bring in about a peaceful settlement based on justice, Riyad said. And this man asked what if Israel's reply to the negative UN negotiate country Jordan's latest proposal for a Mideast settlement. Jordan is urging Israel to withdraw from territories annexed in June 1967 war. Riyad replied, this means simply a member of the United Nations for the very first time in the history of the United Nations says in a documented reply that it is attacking another country and annexed in territory of another country which is a member of the United Nations. This never happened in history in the United Nations, and this will continue. And if the Security Council accepts it, we should consider it as the end of the United Nations and the end of the Security Council, and it should be genuine kind of a cafe or bar. So, an American artillery battalion now today to strengthen radar air defensive systems in South Korea. United States military of 40 Zanats. Unit 8 Battalion 61st Artillery from Fort Bliss, Texas is equipped with a heat-seeking chapel missiles and 20mm Viking guns. Newark, New Jersey, Essex County sheriff officers began striking the school teachers who arrested them as a walkout continues in its ninth week with no sign of settlement. A sheriff spokesman said the office was armed with arrest orders issued Wednesday by Superior Court Judge Ward J. Hebert and were picking up teachers at their homes on the picket lines and at the headquarters of the Newark Teachers Union.
Walsh is tonight from 3 to 8 at St. Patrick's Church in Watertown. The funeral mass will be held
Saigon
at 10:30.
A North Vietnamese regiment crossed from Laos into South Vietnam's
Tomorrow at the Murray
Middle Central Highlands, and a fierce assault drove Saigon's troops out of a infantry firebase, the South Vietnamese command reported today. Continuing upsurge of offensive action that began Sunday apparently in a retaliation for the South Vietnamese invasion of Laos. The North Vietnamese also unleashed a barrage of 5 rockets against 2 artillery bases close to the Laotian border. Meanwhile, in the South Vietnamese commando force returned from an overnight raid on the North Vietnamese base on a Ho Chi Minh Trail 6 miles inside Laos. The 26-hour operation apparently produced only minor results, and the South Vietnamese destroying some ammunition and fuel, but failed to engage in the North Vietnamese. In that development, the United States Command weekly casualty summary said 38 Americans were killed in action last weekend, 158 were wounded. It was the highest death toll in a month and the largest number of wounded in 6 months. The South Vietnamese task force that returned from Laos reported it destroyed 1 ton of ammunition, 1,000 gallons of fuel, and a generator, and a ton of rats, and 3 weapons, and 12 enemy huts during the 26-hour operation.
She was arrested in December, released on...
Colonel Yin said the force also found the bodies of 85 North Vietnamese killed by U.S. airstrikes which preceded the raid. He said no South Vietnamese casualties were reported, and only 1 North Vietnamese soldier were killed by the commandos, including that were little contact with the enemy. The command also reported that 2 U.S. Army helicopters were shot down and destroyed in the Central Islands 27 miles northwest of Custom Wednesday. 1 crew member was killed and 1 was wounded. South Vietnamese military headquarters reported there were 3 ground actions Wednesday in which 54 Viet Cong and North Vietnamese were killed. South Vietnamese losses were 5 killed and 7 wounded, Saigon said. So, American artillery battalion arrived in straight with radar air defense system in South Korea today. The United States military 40 knots. The Unit 8 Battalion 61st Artillery from Fort Bliss, Texas is equipped with heat-seeking chopper missiles and 20mm Vulcan guns. Colonel Orrin K. Henderson, who was commander of the 11th Infantry Brigade in Vietnam during the My Lai incident, faces charges which include direct duty of connection with the investigation of pre-trial hearings scheduled to begin Friday. Teens and adults groups from the Niagara Falls Young Women's Christian Association are circulating petitions protesting the verdict given by Lieutenant William Kelly and plans to send a file petition to President Richard M. Nixon. The petition reads, "We, the undersigned, protest the decision reached in trial of Lieutenant William Kelly, and then we demand a retrial of hope for the verdict of not guilty of premeditated murder. Lieutenant Kelly was convicted Thursday in a military court-martial in number 22 Vietnamese civilians which he murdered. He was originally charged with premeditated murder of 1 or 2 Vietnamese civilians. So far, 300 have signed the petition, said 3 Hickey Teen Department Program Director of the YWCA. The groups are having a meeting tonight at 7 p.m. at the YWCA at 567 Main Street together those interested in circulating petitions about the area. Everyone is invited, Ms. Hickey said.
Under 14,
Fort Benning, Georgia, his fight for life won. Lieutenant William L. Kelly Jr. turns now to the battle for freedom from his life in prison and sentence that it could be tempered only by reviewing authorities. Kelly 27 was spared the death penalty Wednesday by the same military jury which convicted him of the murder of 22 Vietnamese men and women and children during the My Lai massacre 3 years ago. The sentence will be subject to an automatic review for a procedure that could take at least 5 years and possibly as long as 5 years. After exhausting remedies within the military judicial system, the U.S. Court of Military Appeals, the defense wouldn't have to request at civil courts. President Nixon could any time pardon Kelly or reduce his sentence, although there has been no indication he wouldn't do so. At Fort Benning, Kelly's civilian defense attorney George Latimer said Lieutenant Kelly was relieved when the court-martial sentenced him to life. He got the best of 2 terrible penalties. There were 2 verdicts available to the jury: death imprisonment by hanging, life imprisonment. The life sentence carries a possibility of parole after 10 years.
A blood drive in remembrance of the Boston Marathon bombings. New at noon, News Center 5's Todd Kaskiewicz.
The sparring at Kelly's life was expected to ease some degree the nationwide fear over his conviction. Latimer said Kelly probably will be confined to the disciplinary barracks at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. I think they'll move him to a hurry if they don't let him go on his own risk American answers because they don't have the facility to keep officers. Latimer said it took the jury of 6 combat veterans 3 days to greet Cali. They delivered the sentence a total of 5 hours and 58 minutes. The stocky 5'3" Cali in his rust-colored hair slightly rumpled and stood rigidly at the intention the verdict was read. His silhouette was not as sharp as when he received the verdict Monday, and his face was pale.
Smart.com. The Massachusetts State Trooper Chris Dumont, who was also a paramedic. Trooper Dumont is one of the first responders credited with saving the life of transit police officer Dick Donahue, who was wounded in the Watertown shootout and lost a lot of blood. Trooper Dumont says it was the fact that they got Donahue to the hospital.
City veterans groups are planning a demonstration Sunday in support of Lieutenant William Kelly, the Army officer who was convicted Monday of murdering at least 22 civilians in Vietnam. He was sentenced to life in prison Wednesday. According to William Dietz, first class commander at LaSalle American Legion Post 1142, and William J. Sasbo, commander at Chapter 12 of the Disabled American Veterans, the parade will begin at 2 p.m. at Main Street and Ontario Avenue and will end at Fall Street. The call for participation by other veterans organizations and private citizens. Mr. Dietz will serve as parade marshal. A color guard will lead the procession. We combat veterans feel that their trial and conviction were do not wage them principles of the finest men in this country in the time of war. Mr. Dietz said the plane can fly over the area, drop bombs and kill innocent people, but pilots are never brought to trial. Mr. Dietz said the idea for the protest arose spontaneously by our Legion meeting already, and the press heard the news of Kelly verdict. James Stewart, Post 1142 commander, ended the meeting by calling the citizens to write letters to President Nixon showing their disapproval. Mr. Dietz said that Frank Homicek, the Niagara County commander, has sanctioned a demonstration. There are about 200 members of LaSalle American Legion, 120 and disabled veterans, and approximately 3,000 veterans in Niagara Falls.
Live from St. Louis headquarters in Birmingham, Todd Kiskevich, WCBB News Center 5.
A great white powder drifted over the northwest portion of the North Toronto on Monday afternoon, leaving residents along Whitmer Road with headaches and bloodshot eyes and swelling today. One Whitmer Road homeowner said the powder caused a pile of caustic stepped at the Niagara County Solid Waste Disposal Agency site Monday afternoon. Firebrooks head of the agency said that the material was a stack emissions from the Industrial Corporation in Niagara Falls. He said that the material is extremely light and tends to blow around while it was read up. Mrs. J. Quitz at 504. Whitmer Ward said that the material got so bad that their children had to come in from playing outside because the ice hurt them so much. She said after the material was stuffed, it was not covered up to prevent them from blowing away toward her home. I read the State Attorney General was left to try to find out what can be done about the problem. A.R. Fowler, Plant International, said the substance stuff once or twice a day. It's non-toxic and causes no apparent harm to humans. Our people have been working on this stuff for generations, Mr. Fowler said. It's too trained when you don't know about it. He said the material collected in the plant tests collected iron oxide and silicon oxide. Based on an inquiry that they told the news and WBEN News that we will begin investigation to see if we can change the way the materials handled and when in the oxide is rather impractical, but that might be an only answer. Women Road residents have also complained that the truckers at North Post tabs and some industrial trucks barely have their own key to the landfill side. Trucks coming in there about 6 to 7 o'clock at night. Mr. Crutch said, "Here, house borders from the dump area and from the swimming pool." She said she could hear the constant drone of heavy equipment and could see the dumpers at work. And sometimes in Seattle, we had got the additional pleasure to dump spill with the windows back. She said piles of uncovered garbage ended up overnight. And sometimes on the weekend.
Save energy, don't.
Then North Carolina News and WBEN News called the Waste Agency office to try to get the permission to dump trash there after hours. I got a couple of loads of trash from them. Garage I'm turning it down. News reporter told dumping officials, "Hell, they cannot bring it in to be dumped." 4 o'clock was the reply. "No chance of bringing it in later?" asked the reporter. "Who are you?" the official asked in return. John Davis was replied. Then there was no way to do it. After bringing him tomorrow morning, he could leave an impression as someone other than official John Davis might be arranged.
Call in now to get 60% off labor. Ask about
Utica, New York. The pilots aren't back in the cockpit yet, and the stewardess haven't put the coffee on the front burner, but the strike against Mark and Lance has ended. Mark, the nation's 4th largest regional carrier, was struck by the Airline Pilots Association and contract dispute November 12th. No contract agreement was been reached. The walk ended today as pilots began to return to their jobs under the back-to-work settlement imposed Wednesday by David L. Cole, an independent arbiter. Cole was selected by the pilots union and the company jointly last month and empowered to decide that the contract issue was brought to work details. In minor arbitration, 9 jet instructor pilots began refresher training today. Mohawk plans to resume partial service to 21 airports on April 14th and full post-strike operations are scheduled on May 9th. Russell B. Stevenson, Mohawk president, said Wednesday's action marks the end of a long strike. Thomas Davis and union spokesman agreed, saying that the men were looking forward to returning to work. Both sides said they regretted the inconveniences and hardships resulting from the dispute in 87 cities in the U.S. and Canada served by the company. Coal having been settled, details of getting the men back to work will proceed to impose a contract settlement, the key unresolved issue to the job security, including the so-called scope clause of covenant retention of power in the event of the company's contracts and profitable routes to other carriers. In a related matter, Mohawk revealed that the dropped action seeking to prevent the pilot from receiving an employment compensation during the work stoppage. The case has been under study by the State Labor Department. At this point, Mohawk considers the opportunity to offer our passengers benefit of a healthy pilot management relationship and greater good than a prolonged legal dispute with uncertain results, Stevenson said.
Senator Edward Markey and families whose loved
The Erie Community College Factory Federation and Erie County were reported tentative agreement early this afternoon in contract talks that were flirted at one time by the strike threat. Erie County Executive B. John Tetzer was reported ready to call a press conference and announce a settlement. The contract would be provide faculty members with a 50% pay hike over 2 years and a bigger voice in college affairs. A two-alarm fire broke out today in the two-story vacant building in the Buffalo's Allentown area and was reported to be out of control.
16-year-old daughter Amber Marie.
The first alarm was started about 11:51 a.m. and the second about noon. The building is at 75 Mariner Street near the corner of Allen Street. The Buckingham Hotel and the next door is at the corner of the Mariner Allen Street.
Cost of doing business, GM's style.
They said the automaker needs to come clean about why it took more than a decade to address.
And we're gonna go on 75 Mariner Street in Buffalo on the Google Maps. Here.
The lucky ones who survived.
Driving this car was like playing a game of Russian roulette.
On Capitol Hill today, the new CEO of General Motors will be on the hot seat. Since Mary Barra took over in January, General Motors has recalled 2.6 million vehicles because their ignition switches could turn.
This is the scene of the fire. 75 Mariner Street in Buffalo. Here.
Systems, including the airbag.
GM made a business decision.
In Albany, New York, a bill extending the Commission on Campus Unrest for the third year was given in final legislature approval in the Senate Wednesday, sent to the governor. The measure continued in a 9-member panel until March 31st. Next stage would also give the Commission another 30 days of this year until April 30th to submit the report on the college and high school unrest hearings. There.
Horrific crash in Wisconsin in 2006. She was riding in a Chevy Cobalt with a faulty ignition.
Said she was sorry to all of us, and then we all got a chance to talk to her and tell our children.
And another blow to General Motors. Yesterday, the automaker announced another 1.3 million cars are being recalled due to problems with the power steering.
Okay, in sports news, in Pittsburgh, here, Eddie Scheck scored a 3-goal hat-trick, cashing into the $2,000 performance bonus of his contract in the pace in the Buffalo Sabres to a 6-4 victory of the Pittsburgh Penguins in a game last night down in Pittsburgh, as Gil Perreault, the highest scoring rookie in NHL history, scored a 37th goal and picked up 2 assists, and Floyd Smith and Gary Means scored for Buffalo.
He had been drinking heavily before the flight.
Scheck's 3 goals gave him a career-high 27th of the season and showed himself at a bonus when Sabres when he scored the 25th goal at
Deploying a modified Boeing 7 to act as a flying air traffic control.
44 to the second period. He scored twice more than a wild third period.
Collision among the low
When Pittsburgh scored all of its goals and Buffalo got 3.
that went missing.
Andy Backgate, Rod Zane, and Stillaps and Dane Prentice hit for the Penguins. The victory, which kept the Sabres at first year term unbeaten in the 5 games against Pittsburgh, clinched 5th place for Buffalo in the NHL's East Division. Pittsburgh is 5th in the West.
His remarkable rescue caught on camera.
Buffalo jumped into a 4-0 lead against rookie goalie Cam Newton before Backgate got the first Pittsburgh goal at 2:10 of the third period. Scheck put the Sabres ahead 5-1 and 6-2, but goals by App and Prentice in the final 9 minutes closed the gap. Here. But the Penguins ran out of gas as the Buffalo Sabres defeat the Pittsburgh Penguins 6-4. Next up for the Sabres, they will.
The waves and the wind. Fortunately, he was wearing a life jacket and a dry suit, and a paramedic on the sailboat treated him for hypothermia and shock. This morning, the team back.
Next up for the Sabres, Sabres and the Penguins will meet this time at the Buffalo Auditorium.
Well, this may look like an April Fool's joke, but if you were around in 1997 on this very day, you remember this. This was a blizzard that brought 25.4 inches of snow to Boston and 33 inches of snow to Worcester. You can see trees down, power lines down, a lot of power.
Okay, now.
70 miles per hour. The April Fool's Day blizzard back in 1997. So not typically what we find at the beginning of April. Our average high on this date is
you happen to stumble into today's North Carolina news and stumble into this page by
evening, and we usually do see
McDonald's, you usually get your usual fare of Big Macs, fries, and
out there right now. We've enjoyed it in Boston all morning. The winds are active though out of the northeast at
shakes and sodas.
And you'll notice that breeze if you're out and about. We're in the upper 40s right now. Lawrence and Fitchburg.
Look what
and then you had
the McDonald's in North Carolina announces their new menu starting today. It's the Chateau McDonald a la carte. You'll have a freshly cut Skywalker Creek salmon sauteed in yak butter, prime ribs of Kenmore artichokes a la maison with truffles and licorice sauce, braised flanked chihuahua, mountain goat, flambe serving and flaming out of your table over a Bunsen burner, imported Tanawanda, loin of whale, flown in nightly from an Erie Barge Canal, and most like one of watered buffalo with barnacle sauce served sizzling over broken pretzel sticks. Your choice, 97 in each. April Fools!
It's actually approaching us, but it's pretty strong. What there is heading up into Canada.
Okay, let's get in on the weather here. Right now, our current conditions at Buffalo Airport at noontime on this April the 1st of April, 1971. We have a temperature of 61 degrees with a dew point about 33 degrees, a humidity of 35%. Barometer turn by 90 inches, visibly 10 miles, wind southwest about 20 in conditions overcast skies. Around the region, we had a 58 temperature reading for Niagara Falls, 54 in Jamestown, 58 in Erie, Pennsylvania, 54 in Bradford, Pennsylvania, 59 in Rochester. But when you get out to the Prairie, a little chillier, 51 in Syracuse and Unicon and Watertown, 42 in Utica and Elmira and Binghamton, 32 in Plattsburgh, 42 in Great Falls and Schenectady and Albany, 42 in Poughkeepsie, 42 in Danbury, 49 in Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, 53 in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, 58 in Hamilton and in Toronto and Peterborough and Kingstown, Ontario, Canada. Alright, let us take a look at our map situation here around the country. Freezing for much of the northeast, cold for much of the middle and southeastern states, and a cool front spectrum in the Gulf of Mexico, bringing some cooler to the southeast with some rain showers from central Louisiana, central Mississippi, down from Tennessee, down up in Kentucky, and down through Ohio and down in West Virginia, and some cool to cold conditions for much of the greater southwest with some fair skies and the Rockies and some cold air in the Pacific Northwest, and all this freezing air coming up from Canada, bringing some cool air for much of the western third of the nation here. Okay, let us take a look at our forecast. This afternoon, same periods, windy warmer. Highs will be in the 60s. For tonight, showers likely, windy milder. High about 45-50 degrees. And tomorrow, windy and colder, chance some more showers. High, particularly around 50 degrees here. Extended outlook, Saturday for Monday, chance of daily showers. Cool nights and mild days. Saturday and Sunday, lows 25-30, highs 45-50 degrees. Little temperature change Monday, 35 to
Intake of fruits and veggies. According to a new study,
40 degrees and high about 50 degrees. Okay, probably a rain. Probably a precipitation. By today, we'll be seeing a 40%
fresh vegetables were found to have the strong
chance of showers. For tonight, we'll see a 70% chance of showers. And for tomorrow, we'll see a 50% chance of showers. And
fans in Rhode Island. The surprise visit next.
dirty air index, sulfur dioxide, San Antonio, light, carbon dioxide, Buffalo, light, and dust particles, San Antonio, heavy. And that's going to be it for the WBEN News Report on this April 1st, 1971 on the Thursday. I'm Peter with a good day coming next, and Channel 4 will be search for tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow. Have a good day. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye, everybody.